Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Dawn Campbell, your IAPC&M host today, and we're joined again by the lovely Dr. Liz Sparks. Welcome, Liz.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
It's lovely to see so many people from all around the world. You're very, very welcome. We've got a very interesting 30-40 minutes planned for you. So let me introduce Liz properly. Liz is a health psychologist, intuitive coach, and meditation and Reiki practitioner using ancient modalities to offer healing from a heart-based practice. And I can vouch for that because I went on her Moonology course and loved it. Actually, last year, you also did a masterclass for us, Liz, called Changing Pain into Power. So if anybody missed that, it's still on the blog. You can still benefit and watch that. But today is all about cultivating our inner warrior. Sounds great. So for those who don't know me or Liz yet, I always like to try and find out something a little bit unique or different about our guests. And I know that Liz loves drumming, wild drumming around a fire pit, dancing in the forest. And I've heard from people on her course, it's a really special time in her retreat. So you would have that to look forward to if you ever joined her. But without further ado, because it's a short, sharp masterclass, I'm going to hand over to Liz. So grab your pad and pens, take notes, and enjoy.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. And just to really pay a compliment back, I have to say that becoming accredited with the IAPC&M has been the absolute right thing to do. And they've supported me beautifully and through the accreditation of my course, which really is what I'm going to make reference to, as well as, you know, talking about cultivating the inner warrior. So yeah, just a huge thanks really to Dawn for all of her support and what she's done for me. So cultivating the inner warrior, why this and why now? Well, I'm just as much on this path as you are. So I think it's important that all of these things that I'm about to share with you, I haven't mastered them completely either. So I completely get it. And I think we talk about, or we facilitate, or we teach what we need. And so, you know, I'm teaching this and facilitating this, and it's become my job because it's what I've needed. And I've learned so much from other people. And I'm really hoping that while I go through this, that I remember to make reference to them as well, because, you know, having those really valuable teachers and coaches myself has been, you know, integral to being able to now bring this to you today. So very quickly on who am I? I'll just go forward. I'm Liz. I'm accredited master coach with the IAPC&M. I'm also a health psychologist with the HCPC. And I have my own accredited course with the IAPC&M, which is a level 5. So my background is health psychology, as Dawn said, more specifically pain psychology, and it was painful getting through it. I'm not an academic naturally, but I was in academia for a long time, well, what I consider a long time, 10, 11 years. And I did thrive there for quite a while. I led a MSc in health psychology, then I co-wrote an MSc in mindfulness and compassion with Surya Chitta from Mindfulness CIC, and loved directing that course for a while. And then it just naturally evolved that I break free from that particular way of teaching and develop my own diploma, which is the transformation and heart-based practices. And I suppose I've been able to do that through all of these things here, you know, moonology, sound, life coaching, understanding mindfulness and compassion, Reiki, and all the other CPD that I've attended and books I've read, but what I want to really say has been fundamental, has been my own experiential process. So I could show you all of these qualifications if you like, but actually what's been most important is what I've learned through going through all of these different practices. And what I've done is started to create a path forward for not only myself, but people that I work with and also in my course. So that's what I want to share with you today, is how we can bring lots of these methods together to create that inner strength, that connection to the heart, that courage, and that clarity to move forward in whatever way we want to. So I'm just going to move my screen over so I can see clearly. Right, so inner strength and courage. Well, we can think about how when we're born, we are this, and this is something that Surya Chitta put to me, was that we are this beautiful diamond, and we have that natural strength and courage. And then over time, there's a build up that we start to experience around that diamond, and we can consider it to be almost like the ice. And although the real true self is still there, there's that ice around it from all of the experiences, from all of the things we're told we are or we're not. And it becomes our story, or the story that we hold. And so our inner strength, our courage, our connection to the true self, our heart-based nature can sometimes feel as though it's a little bit distant. So we might feel, we could talk about it in terms of feeling a bit blocked or losing belief in ourselves. Perhaps there's been some trauma or experiences in the past. Maybe we've taken on patterns and ways of being. And all of this can really affect the way that we move forward and actually reinforce us being more in a mode of worrying rather than being a warrior. So for me, a warrior is very much a heart-based person. And I'm going to come on to why that is now. So in terms of being heart-based, what is that? Well, these are just some examples, and if you've got any examples to add, please do just type them in. But being heart-based, it's having intentions and actions that express compassion. It's that desire to reduce suffering for others as well as ourselves. It's having less self-focus and more of a holistic view of things, perhaps. So that always brings to mind, have many of you heard of Yasmin Boland? So she's a moonologist. Well, she teaches moonology. I did my training with her. And she always says, for the good of all or not at all. And I think that's a really beautiful expression, really, of compassion. So it's also about allowing emotions to be felt and very much linked with the mind and the heart. It's allowing a flow of what is. And we find this, I'll speak for myself, I find this very difficult. And I think most of us do. You know, to be in flow with what we're feeling isn't always very natural, but this is a very heart-based way of being, because that way we're not clinging. It's very mindful. We're able to feel it, be with it, and in flow with it. So it's a connection to the heart of who you are, that diamond that I was talking about before, that's become, yeah, it's still there. There's ice around it, but it's very much still there. And I think a heart-based way of being is gentle yet discerning. So there's a real certainness to it and a clarity, but there's still that gentleness that is still apparent. Now, I think one of the things, and this used to come up quite a lot when I did work at a university was, you know, is all this compassion a bit fluffy, Liz? You know, is it a bit fluffy? Well, no, it's not fluffy. And I think the most excellent way of expressing this is what Chris Germer talks about. And you can look him up and read more about this. But he talks about fierce compassion. And he talks about the near and far enemies of fear, of fierce compassion. And so you can have a look at this for a moment now and just see when this does arise for you. And also just being aware of what reduces our ability to hold fierce compassion can be helpful, because we all slip up, definitely. So am I controlled by my anger? So am I very much involved in that emotional reactivity? Do I feel morally superior? Do I want my adversary to suffer? And then considering, am I willing to take necessary action? So this isn't about sitting back and watching when things happen that we don't feel are right or justified. It's actually knowing when it is appropriate and discerning when it is right to take action. And am I curious about the experience of others? And then lastly, am I willing to feel the pain of others as my own? And I think for me, that isn't about taking it on. It isn't about being burdened by it, but it's being able to perhaps walk alongside that person in recognition of their experience. So I think this brings us back into what being heart-based is about, really, and being a warrior, really, for me, is about this heart-based, fierce compassion, which is all very well, but how do we get there? And that's what I really want to explore. So I could go straight into, and traditionally in the past I could go straight into a heart-based practice now, and I could start talking about connecting with the heart, coming into, you know, that place. But through what I've learned, through what I've, you know, experienced, and the people that have helped me and facilitated and supported change within me, I have learned the absolute importance of actually starting at the ground and working up. And that importance of grounding, and what that means for you. And again, if any of you have a really regular grounding practice, do please just type it into the chat. So for me, grounding is about making sure that I spend time outside in nature. It's about spending time barefoot on the ground. And you'll see below, I've just added in the Journal of Environmental and Public Health. There's an excellent paper that they have where they talk all about the importance of contact with the Earth's surface and how it provides us, you know, with this limitless renewed supply of free and mobile electrons. And essentially what this means for me is that every time we're engaging in that grounded, you know, bare feet on the ground and connected with the ground in that way, it's reducing that negativity that's flowing. And they talk a lot in this paper as well about the importance on all body systems. So the biological clock, the circadian rhythm, balancing cortisol levels. So this importance of having, you know, that connection with the earth and that groundedness is where we really need to start to embark on this process of becoming more heart-based. So the other thing that can be really helpful is movement. And this can take form in many ways. So maybe it's drumming and dancing. maybe it's exercise, maybe, you know, it's going for a walk. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, which I have found to have a profound effect, and I'm due to start my own training in it because I value it so much, is yin yoga. And I don't know if any of you, I'm just going to check the chat. Earthing. Thank you, Dawn. Yes, there's a great book called Earthing. I have heard of that one. So movement, yin yoga. Yeah, it's such a beautiful practice. And if any of you've engaged in it, I'm sure you will agree. And it's about passive floor-based poses, and they are held for a period of time. So between 2 to 5 minutes. I'm by no means an expert in this, but I value it. So what these poses help is they're very restorative. So they bring us again into that stillness, that groundedness, that being in the body. A lot of us feel as though we're sort of half out, you know, with the stress and the overwhelm. And they bring us into being connected again. And when we engage in these poses, what they do is they gently start to stretch the connective tissues in the body. So the fascia that connects and surrounds the muscles. And by engaging in these deep stretches, we're starting to allow that actual physical sense of letting go. So you'll start to see that what I'm trying to say here is that about engaging in this heart-based way of being is very much about the mind, the body, and the spirit. It's got to be all of the parts brought together. And yin yoga also energetically, we can touch on that from how I understand it. It's very much about removing blocked energy in the body. So, and it's primarily understood and based on the meridians. So that Taoist, Chinese medicine approach, that when we engage in these stretches and we allow this tension and we allow these energies that have become blocked in the meridians to free, it improves our life force. And it restores that feeling of wellness in the body. So another really useful movement and practice is yin yoga. And then meditation. And there's so many forms of meditation. So we can drop into that very simple and beautiful practice of being with the breath. But actually, we can also try other types of meditation, which are more heart-based or compassionate, perhaps using visualization or creative visualization. But again, it's bringing us into the moment, reducing stress, becoming more grounded. And of course, I absolutely have to mention the importance of diet. Again, by no means am I an expert. I'm busy trying to sort mine out as well. But gut health is, as we know, fundamental to feeling centered and able to connect with and tune into the gut instinct appropriately. Surely, if our gut flora isn't balanced, then the gut instinct is imbalanced. And I know Dawn could tell you a lot more about that. So I won't testify to being an expert on that, but it is absolutely important. These are some of the things that we need to be thinking about when we're starting to become more heart-based, because they're like the foundation. Okay, so hang on, I've lost my, there we go. So, and it wouldn't be right if I didn't also talk about other very important foundational changes, the importance of talk therapy. And that comes in many forms: counseling, psychotherapy. And quite often is absolutely essential and beautiful and life-changing to become more heart-based and more warrior-like. So the importance of talk therapy. And I'm not a counsellor or a psychotherapist, but I walk and work alongside quite a few. And we work together actually with quite a few clients because it is so vital. So the importance of talk therapy for those foundations as well. And then the importance of beyond talk therapy. And this is where we start to move into the energetic changes. And again, there's so many different paths to the top of that mountain. And I'm going to share with you just some, but there's so many other things you can look at. But these are the things that I find really, really powerful and important. So starting now at this point with heart-based practices is normally where I would begin when coaching clients or creating change or running courses. We've built in some of those foundations. We've started to create a solid foundation which then we can build upon. And this is when heart-based practices and meditations come in at exactly the right time. But what about all the other methods that can be so fruitful, really, when we're wanting to become more heart-based, more warrior-like? And these are some of the methods that I'd like to put to you today. And the first one is mantra. I am particularly interested in Sanskrit mantra. And I was taught mantra by somebody called Dr. Nicholas Peters. Now, he's a shamanic composer and an expert. He completed his PhD in shamanic composition, and he didn't get any corrections. So he's pretty fabulous. And he teaches on my course as well. So he's an expert in sound and mantra. And you can arrange to see him on a one-to-one basis as well. And he will actually help you find a mantra that is right for you. And we can use mantra for many different things. So we could use mantra to bring in, strength and courage. We could bring in mantra to create a shift from negative to positive. We can bring in mantra to help us find an answer. We can bring in mantra for healing and connection to the truest part of who we are. So there are so many different Sanskrit mantras that you can look at. And I'll just mention one now that you can just sit with for a moment and just notice how it feels. So aham prema, aham prema. And that mantra means I am divine love. And if you just say that and you really feel it in the body, you start to take on the energy of that mantra. So there's a few things that we can consider with mantra and why it might be helpful. You always want to engage with mantra with the highest intention. So there's a real sense of commitment to feeling the words as much as you're saying them. And traditionally, we would chant a mantra for a certain number of days and a certain number of times to actually really fulfill that connection. But we could see mantra as helpful as it's allowing us to focus on just one thing, like meditation does. So it's bringing our mind back into that way of being with just one thing and reminding ourselves that we don't have to be caught up in that web all the time, that actually we can come back to just one thing. So there's that idea of settling the mind behind mantra. But there's also the idea that the way the Sanskrit sounds and the way the mouth moves as we say it and the frequency and the vibration, there's that idea that actually that vibration of that mantra is sinking deeper and deeper into your energy. And you start to feel it. You start to feel the mantra as part of your energy. So that's something that you can start to explore and understand once you start to work with them. So it becomes like a subtle force, and it's empowering. And depending on what you're selecting that mantra for, will reinforce what you want to sort of hold on to energetically. So that's Sanskrit mantra, and I just absolutely I love it. Even just listening to it in the background is very, very helpful. Yin yoga, I've talked to you about that. Archetypes. So a lot of the time I'm bringing in work around archetypes. I mean, traditionally we think about, well, as a psychologist, I do about the 12 Jungian archetypes. And it's that idea that it sort of takes form of the collective unconscious, if you like, that's within us all. I also like to explore the use of archetypes to help us get to know what's reducing our ability to move forward, what's reducing our ability to connect deeply with the true self. And Caroline Miss has created many courses and books and beautiful archetype oracle cards that you can use to really explore, you know, what part is it that's holding me back, or what is it within me that isn't quite allowing me to connect with that deeper. So there's the use of archetypes for shadow work, but there's also the use of archetypes for empowerment. What part would be useful right now? Well, right now it's the teacher archetype for me, you know, being able to do this and talk to you and project my voice. Whereas other times it might be, you know, actually the healer archetype or the mother archetype. So as much as they're useful for exploring shadow work, they're actually really useful for empowering. The warrior example, and feeling into, connecting with the feeling, the felt sense of that particular archetype can be really empowering. So sound as well, strengthening that link to the heart and sense of self. Sound baths or listening to crystal and Tibetan bowls. I use a gong regularly. It's very clearing, it's very grounding and connecting. And we can understand sound as having this impact on us, bringing us into more of a contemplative and relaxed state of awareness, reducing that over worry, that fight or flight, that busy mind. And I know from my own experience, and if you've attended sound baths and even just listening to certain types of music, you'll know that the sounds bring you into that quiet, centered state. And we can think of all the other things that could quite possibly be happening, you know, that sense of clearing and clarity and letting go. And really, you have to experience it to make your mind up in terms of what it does for you. But sound, again, very helpful in terms of strengthening that link to the heart and sense of self. Meditation I've touched on, but creative visualization, and this ties in with a few of the other things. And this is starting to actually visualize the energy that we want to be, or perhaps even the energy that we actually are underneath the things, the patterns or the story. Or creative visualization is also really, really helpful in terms of starting to connect with the intentions that you're looking to bring forward. So I do a lot of moon work. So today we're on the new moon. It's a great day for setting intentions and starting to bring in that creativity in our minds of where we are headed and connect with the feeling of where we want to go and where we want to be. And of course, ritual and ceremony, often accompanied, if you're with me, by a drum and a fire, and a really lovely feeling just recently when we were on one of the retreat days and we were drumming around the fire. We had a few buzzards circling around above us. I mean, couldn't really ask for more. So why ritual and ceremony? Well, because again, it's strengthening the link to the heart and sense of self. Alberto Villoldo, he's a shamanic practitioner, and he talks in depth about the importance of ritual and ceremony and why it can be just so life-changing. Let's think about the fact that the beliefs and the thoughts that we hold are interacting with our experience and our behaviors all the time. I know, because it's my greatest challenge. So stress is interfering with our experience and how we experience the world and what we do believe in ourselves. And our ability to allow those stressful feelings to be experienced and to be let go of is absolutely essential to our well-being, as we know. When we hold on to those stressful feelings, it creates those sort of toxic feelings in the body, and it affects our ability to connect with the heart and the sense of self. So the idea of ritual and ceremony, having that ceremonial conscious release of things or emotions, or writing down once we've processed something that we're actually ready to let go of it and put it into the fire, can be very, very powerful, because we're taking action. We're actually taking part in a ceremony of change or a ritual to release something. And it affects us on a very deep level. It helps rewire, you know, the way we're viewing something, because we've actually gone through an active process to decide that something is now ready to change in our lives. And it is through these very sacred and very meaningful acts of love and forgiveness that we can heal. Of course, we have to process it, but actually, by going through these kind of ceremonies and rituals, actually it brings a lot of opportunity to move forward. So I'll just move this again, as I can't see what I've written. Okay. So just to, as we're coming to the end now of my talk, my masterclass, being connected to the heart brings a feeling that is expansive, and excuse the typo here, yet has plenty of boundaries. As we begin to commit to the heart's way, or the true self, and allow a sense of trust, we start to transform and become authentic and empowered. By beginning to be with whatever is present in an honest way allows integration and clarity, and therefore awareness and insight grows. And through all of these methods and this process that I've talked about, from those foundations to building upon them, is the way that I find is helpful to cultivating the inner warrior. And all of this has been brought together into my course, which is now, it will be the third time that I run it this September. We have 2 places left for this year. So if all of this is sounding like something you're interested in, then you can get in contact with Dawn or myself. And I bring all of these aspects together and take you through this process to be able to cultivate all of these practices and coach others if you wish to. Some people take it just to go through it themselves. I know some of you've already done it that are here today. And I know that some people like to do it because they actually want to take it out there themselves and bring it into the work that they already do. So that is my course. And I just wanted to add on to the end, there are some papers, going back to my academic roots, that you can look at on sound baths and why they're so effective, on yin yoga and why that's so effective, and then on mantra as well. And we'll be happy to email those around should you want to read more. So thank you ever so much for listening to what I'm so passionate about. And I would like to open to any questions that I will try to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. That was wonderful. I mean, it's evident that you're passionate. The energy just radiates through, and that you do know your subject really well. So that was very helpful. Thank you. I love the warrior to warrior. I can really relate to that. And building our resilience is something that we all need at the moment, isn't it? I mean, we're hearing this word bandied around all the time as coaches, being more resilient to things. So I think this just fits in beautifully. So as Liz said, anybody who would like to ask questions, just either raise your hand or unmute yourself, and we'll try and answer as many questions as possible.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
Linda.
Hello. I'd just like to say, so everyone's aware, I have done Liz's course and it's absolutely amazing, incredible. And actually I went on, you know, I'm teaching meditation from it, and using everything I learned in my practices and for myself ongoing. So yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I think what I would like to ask at the moment, so even though I do a lot of work with Liz, and Liz still supervises, and you know, I go to a lot of her things still. I think it's when you're going through something really difficult, which I am at the moment, when these things are really having to be put into practice. And obviously one, that's great because it's giving you've got that extra insight and these tools and techniques. But equally, it's even more so difficult when you're, you know, in that sort of situation. And everything I'm learning and going through is obviously going to hopefully help me go on. You know, I will see it as a learning thing. I will see it that can also go on to help others. But I just wanted to ask, so when you're trying to sort of create and vision, Liz, you know, what you are trying to bring in, when the emotions are quite strong, obviously, because they're being impacted by these external things, and you recognize that's what they are, and you recognize the ego's pull to, you know, towards something. Because what is difficult is when you, as I've done, worked on myself to become more and more aligned and all these things to be heart-based, that can take you away from situations, that can make you make these choices and decisions that are extremely difficult. So, but then those choices and decisions obviously are causing other people suffering. And that is the bit, that's what I was going to ask. That is quite difficult, because whenever you try and manifest or create what it is you want from this, the resolution from it, or whether it is that direction, you have all this automatic barrier, because it's the feelings that you're feeling for those people, that these decisions are causing suffering, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
unfortunately, when you're trying to create what it is you're wanting to, there is this block to it, because you've got this thing of feeling this suffering, you know, this pain. This is causing others, not as yourself as well, but you know, and that's sort of blocking that, you know. Does that make sense?
So I think, if I'm right, Linda, what you're saying is that sometimes when you're creating and moving into a place that you're more aligned with, you're aware that that may negatively affect others.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's where that fierce compassion can come in, and that acknowledgement that the key thing is it comes down to our intention and our ability to still witness what other people are going through, and attend to that in the way that we can without giving ourselves away. So it comes back to me, and if anybody else has thoughts on it, please please do suggest, but it comes down to that self-compassion of being with those feelings that it brings up for you, and holding that fierce compassion, and just being aware of the intentions that we hold, because it's that for the good of all or not at all. And it's these parts that we come back to that remind us why we're doing something. And sometimes the toughest things are the things that, create a ripple around us. And so it comes back to that sense of self-compassion and allowing yourself to feel the discomfort around it. I know there's not a direct solution there, but does that help at all?
Yeah, no, it is. I think the good of all, it's quite, or not at all. It's sometimes it's hard to include yourself in that, isn't it? You're thinking of the good of all for everyone else, not yourself, which means, self-compassion. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Linda.
Who's next? Well, we've got Liz in the hot seat. I've got a question for you, Liz, about firewalks. Have you thought about adding a firewalk, a spiritual firewalk, into your course?
That would be brilliant, Dawn. I hadn't thought about it, but I love that. I think that's actually going to be written down now. So yeah, thanks for that.
I've done a very rah-rah one with Tony Robbins, but I've been looking for a spiritual one.
Brilliant. No, that's on the agenda now.
Cool. That is so empowering. I mean, I was invincible for about 6 months.
Right. This is going on, Dawn. Yeah, excellent.
Did you want to say anything, Jeremy, about firewalks? I know you're a healer as well. Completely different modality. It's muscle testing, isn't it? Hello, Jeremy. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. After a while, I don't understand why you're not still empowered. I mean, why is it gone?
Oh,
a lot's worn me down since then. I keep coming back.
No, I'm not an expert on firewalks, but so much of this is funny. I actually think I'd love to have a conversation with you, but without dominating it, because I think in a strange way, we do quite a lot of things in parallel with each other. And it might be we can both learn from each other. So that would be lovely to have a conversation if you have time sometime. But really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I'd love that. Thank you.
And Jeremy, you did a great masterclass for us, I think, last January. So that's still on the website.
Well, it wasn't quite so great because my Wi-Fi signal, like we discovered, was about 1.8. And after about 20 minutes of the sort of however long it was going on for, it was quite a long one. It was very politely pointed out to me that every time I moved a PowerPoint slide, it was about 10 seconds before anybody saw it, by which time I was already on to the next one. So once I learned that, I now, though, Dawn, which I now at a different end of the house, and I have a signal of nearly 20. So I can now do, I was thinking I might suggest to you, would you like another session at some point? Because
content was great.
Yeah. It was about commitment, I think that one was about, which was sort of the beginning of the year, and it was topical then for New Year's resolutions and all sorts of things. I might make it on happiness now if you would like it, because I think there's a need for that.
Yeah, we'll do that. I mean, holding a masterclass is open to any expert. If they're an expert in the field, they've written about it, and we would love to add to this wealth of positive health and well-being series that we've got, so that you can become a warrior and give up the anxiety and the worrying. So if you wrote that, Liz, I would trademark it, warrior to warrior. I love it.
Yeah, no, it just came to mind the other day, basically thinking of myself. So yeah.
Very good. So any more questions before I start to wrap up? It's now or never, or now until September, should I say, when the course starts.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody does have any last minute questions, it can come to you, and you can jot them in the chat box if you're a little bit shy. or you're a HSP, so highly sensitive person, you don't want your video on. I can see some videos aren't on. But let's just take, as usual, 60 seconds, as we do at the end of every masterclass, just to reflect, because when you come to do your CPD log at the end of the week or the end of the month, which is actually today, I think, you know, you're going to forget the key takeaways. So either in the chat box or just on your CPD log, let's have some quiet time, just 60 seconds, and write down what we're going to do differently as a result of spending the special time with Liz. Okay, and obviously Liz's is to add a fire walk to her course next year, maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for your participation, energy, and support. Anybody who wants to know more, they can find Liz in the training providers directory at the IAPC&M. I'm sure we'll see Jeremy again redo his masterclass of last year. And Jeremy and Liz, I'll leave you to hook up. And those coming on your course in September, Liz, have a wonderful time. Just 2 places left. I'm sure they'll be gone by the end of the day. So everyone, take care, and contact me if you ever want to run a masterclass, and I'd love to host you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Liz.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.